Alright guys, HyDra again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying all day so far. Nadeshot giving his perspective on the big rivalry at the top of the league next season. FaZe versus OpTic versus Los Angeles Thieves. But Nade reckons that over the last couple of years, Thieves have generally had OpTic's number, despite not necessarily always being the better team on paper. This team, they could well be equivalents depending on your perspective. And Nade reckons maybe the Thieves of the roster to take OpTic down this year, the world champions. Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Toronto had the media day going on. Here's Beans, of course. I mean, look, it's going to be entertaining, isn't it? We know that the league does their own media days. They did it, I think it was the Wednesday, maybe, in Boston, obviously last year, or this year, basically. But we don't really know where the first event's going to be yet. There are rumours that they're going to tell us soon where the events are, but I still don't really know. I don't know whether we're going to go back to 5 majors. That would be nice. I think it seems kind of doubtful. Boston, I don't think are going to be hosting one this year, to be honest, because they're cutting back big time. We're hoping that Toronto will, but there are some questions on Toronto, just even whether they're still going to be Toronto or exactly what's going on, because yesterday there were a fair few indications that Toronto's, well, there was going to be some sort of rebrand in place. Now, I will say, if there is ever a rebrand, it's usually like leaked before it happens, and we've not seen that yet from Ronnie, who does say Toronto, kind of thinking about like whatever, thinking emoji type thing, and but JoeDeceives not said anything about it either. There's just been some theories that maybe they will change the branding around. I imagine it's still going to be Toronto-based. It's got to be, right? Surely. Because you know, they've got all their base there for many a year and for many a good reason. So if they are going to host an event, which hopefully they do, it's probably still going to be there. I'm not exactly sure what the branding is going to be, though, going forwards, because they said, oh, big announcement coming later today. People thought it might be brand-related. It wasn't. They are confirming that they're doing like kind of a midnight release party for the release of Black Ops 6. Pretty cool stuff. I mean, it's good to see that Toronto, despite the fact that they've kind of run out of cash, I mean, they're still putting on good stuff for the community. And I will say for Toronto, the reason why I think they will still run an event is because they are able to get access to loads of like great partners, because they are like the premier Canadian organization, especially for COD and in many senses. You know, TD Bank are always on board with their stuff. They get loads of partners. If you guys have been to the Toronto Major, you'll know there's like a whole section full of all the partners they have at the event. Not many other events are able to do stuff like that. Toronto are capable of bringing in many partners that are able to actually finance the event, because it ain't cheap to hire out a venue over the course of a weekend. In regular sports, when you own the venue, that's fine. It's expensive up front, obviously, but over many a decade, it's fine. Whereas in COD, it's like you've got to hire an event for a weekend. It ain't easy to do. So 24th, 25th of October, if you guys are local to Toronto, have a look at that one. Obviously, OpTic, they're looking forward to the release as well. President Scump addresses the nation. But there were some interesting developments last night. What's happening for next year's Call of Duty? So this year's Black Ops 6, initially, well, I think we thought it was going to be called like Black Ops Gulf War or something, right? There were rumors that, okay, it was Cold War, then it was Gulf War. To be honest, I think the reason why they never named Black Ops Cold War Black Ops 5 is probably just because it was like too early. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, that they went 1 to 4. Okay, Black Ops 1 was just Black Ops, technically. It wasn't known as Black Ops 1 at the time, but it turned out the game was rather good, and many were rather happy with it. But Black Ops 5 never existed. It was Cold War. As I say, likely because it just wasn't quite ready or perfect, right? We're pretty sure that it was meant to be Sledgehammer's year that year, but there was a problem. They had to delay it, and, you know, the rest since then obviously is history, right? So now it's Black Ops 6. That seems pretty good, but next year's game is meant to be a Treyarch game as well. That is the rumor. It's going to be a Black Ops 2 remaster, Black Ops 2.5 set somewhere between Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3. Sounds pretty sensational to me. The question then really was, you know, what next in terms of the movement, right? Is anything happening here? And as JoeDeceives says, apparently next year's COD 2025 has apparently leaked. Now, we don't know if this is true or not, but there was a load of leaks that came through on what that game is meant to look like. And, you know, we've speculated for some time, haven't we? Are we going to go back to jetpacks, right? Like, what's going to happen with this Omni movement? Because I think Treyarch are basically saying this Omni movement set of mechanics in the new Black Ops 6 where you can jump, slide, dive in all directions, even run in all directions. It's different to how it was before. And I think Treyarch's plan is for that to now be the staple movement from any COD game here on out. And they'll probably be successful in that venture. The question then is, could you take it one step further and add other elements into the Omni movement? So that's the rumour, that for next year's game, Omni movement is going to go next level and not exactly bring jetpacks back, but wall jumping maybe back in the game. Uplink, of course, coming back. I guess it was wall running, really. I don't know what it's going to look like, of course. This is looks like Combine from Black Ops 3 here. So yeah, of course, that's like the scythe or the Reaper guy with the scythe, isn't it? So yeah, uplink back, wall jumping back in business. We'll see if this actually comes true or not, because I know many have speculated for many a year, are we ever going to get this again? The theory was maybe not, but I think at some point it was always going to happen, that they were going to introduce some sort of advanced movement. Maybe next year's going to be the game where that happens, but obviously jetpack seems unlikely, but you know, something else would be interesting. I think the wall running in Black Ops 3, had it just been wall running with no jetpacks, probably would have been fine, or just jetpacks with no wall running. I obviously love the movement in that game, but I will say that towards the end of the title, especially in Search and Destroy trials and stuff, people were getting so good with the movement that it was just impossible to predict where anyone was coming from. So many were saying at the time, well, jetpacks, no wall running maybe was the way to go, maybe the other way around. So we'll see what happens there. Just Black Ops 4 was such a well-received game, certainly by the competitive community, and in some sense it was like a pseudo jetpack game. When Black Ops 4 was super fast, the way the movement worked, the grapple hook of course was a thing as well, so there were reasons why Black Ops 4 played almost like a jetpack game in some respects, and it was 5v5, so it was super fast paced. I feel like that type of game wouldn't be a bad idea to bring it back. Contract signed for Cloud9. We believe we know their roster. Sib obviously is staying, so it can't be that. Attach, I think, maybe also tweeted this out a while ago. So Attach, I think maybe Attach and Kremp already tweeted out they'd signed. Maybe this is now Mack, I don't know, rounding out the roster. That was the rumour the other day. Is that going to be a team of 4 to seriously put a challenge to the top 4 in the league, or the top 3 in the league as it's probably going to be now? Maybe or maybe not. Someone's got to be the 4th best. I know that, of course, Kenny gave a controversial opinion yesterday that he reckons Falcons, at least in the first month, are going to be very good. And I can see it. I mean, I can see the chemistry helping those guys. There obviously are some shooters on that team, but the debate is how good is it going to be on a consistent basis. If I had to predict what happens with Falcons, I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, certainly next season or middle of this season, they decide to keep maybe a couple of their players and bring in a couple of other players to the roster, make kind of a mixed nationality team, see how it goes from there. I suppose it's a possibility, right? And I imagine those guys speak English relatively well. But let's talk about Nadeshot, right? He mentions Doug's pull-up records. We saw this the other day. Guinness World Records have officially, like, not verified it, basically, which is super unfortunate. I know there's been lots of talk about that Doug went through the wrong channels, whether he actually did this himself or got anyone else to do it for him. I don't know, but someone messed up somewhere. And unfortunately, Doug's pull-up record is not officially a GWR yet, although that may change. It's not like the video evidence is going away, so it should be possible, I'm hoping, to work this out, because, you know, look, the record still counts as far as I'm concerned. Like, Doug still has the most pull-ups in 24 hours, and it's like video documented. But if it's not an official DWR, like, unfortunately, just the nature of things, it does end up diminishing the accomplishment to some degree in the longer term. I'm sure that the next person who wants to go and break this record will know or have seen Doug's record and be breaking that, but officially that won't quite be the case. So, you know, it just is what it is, really. Parasite, of course, gives his take, and Nadeshot claps back at that. So I wanted to share this clip, but also what he has to say on the new OpTic Texas team. Of course, not that new at this point, it's been around for a year or so, but how they might fare against Los Angeles Thieves.
All right, well, let's be clear here. The pull-up record was legit. I just think that the Guinness Book of World Records, quite frankly, are on some hoe shit, acting like a bunch of hoes. I'm actually disgusted. I don't really know the ins and outs of the Guinness Book of World Records, but all I do know is that I grew up the Guinness Book of World Records as a kid, thinking it was incredibly cool. It was, I always was amazed by, like, the books they would have them in, like, the school library. I think they even had, like, a TV show where they would show some of this shit off. They just ruined their entire image in my own mind. I can't believe this Doug did over, like, 9,000 fucking pull-ups in 24 hours, and they're telling him that he has not secured the record because he didn't categorize his attempt properly. Honestly, if I were Doug Sensor Martin, I'd be kind of tweaking. And it wouldn't be at Guinness Book of World Records. He tweets out, I just found out my live stream pull-up world record was denied by Guinness World Records because I did it for charity. He said, here's the problem that I have. He screenshots this, tweets it out, and Haggy over here pushed up the glasses on the brim of his nose and said, reading it seems like you have to apply using a different method because you represented a charity. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh my God. Do you want to just lay out quite literally exactly what Doug just tweeted out? Bro, just AI chat GPT'd him. And then everybody that replied to Haggy agreed with him and said the same thing. I'm like, wait, hold up, brother. Am I on Mars right now? All 5 of these fucking people absolutely faded. My first instinct when I opened that tweet up, I was gonna check the replies. I thought everybody was gonna have the pitchforks out rioting and defending our man Doug Sensor Martin, but instead we got Parasite basically explaining exactly what was just explained in the tweet. So Parasite, that's a technical foul, brother. I mean, that's actually 2 techs and a flagrant. Eject him out of the game. Actually, brother LaRue, I believe you miscategorized it for charity, brother. You should have filled out the paperwork properly. T versus OpTic is going to be a movie. Completely agree, bro. That rivalry is going to be awesome to watch unfold, man. Historically, I think Thieves have gotten the better of OpTic in most titles we've been a part of. You know, I'm not saying that as like a slight towards OpTic, but for some reason, Thieves has always been like a really good counter to OpTic. Like the Octane Kenny, Envoy, Drazah era. It would just seem like they had their number a lot of the times. OpTic obviously got the best of everybody at Champs this year, but we played them pretty well, man. Shout out once again, JoeDeceives, Nastie, Kremp, and JoeDeceives, Kremp, Nastie, and Ghosty. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. He's still in the team. He's the one that I forgot. That's crazy.
So certainly in Modern Warfare 2, it tended to be the case that OpTic always had FaZe's number, but when they played Thieves, it wasn't quite so easy. Certainly at the end of Vanguard, of course, that was true because Thieves were beating absolutely everybody. And look, is Nadeshot right on this? Well, technically, across the entirety of the CDL, it's actually a straight up dead heat between the two teams, and we'll see that now. So since Thieves came into the league, of course, they weren't around in Modern Warfare 19. They were basically OGLA then, technically, and then that spot became Thieves, as I'm pretty sure, yeah, when they bought them out, and OpTic, well, Hex bought the naming rights back to the NRG spot, and then, of course, Boston eventually came in as well a year afterwards, but yeah, Thieves got that spot, and during that season, which was pretty shambolic for Thieves, really, but, you know, obviously wasn't great for OpTic either, to be honest. They didn't even make a finals that season, despite having Dashy, Formal, Envoy, and Scump on the roster, but it was 3-2 that season in favor of OpTic Chicago, and since then, since it's become OpTic Texas the year after, it's 8-9 in favor of the Thieves. So all time in the CDL, it's 11 wins for OpTic, 11 wins for Thieves in their head-to-head games, which is pretty good to be fair, and this is what it's looked like over the last couple of years. So since OpTic became OpTic Texas, of course, they famously lost to Thieves right back at the start of that season, and then Thieves at the end of that year turned out to be pretty damn good, of course beat them at the World Championship that year as well. The next year in Modern Warfare 2, yeah, we see Thieves generally have their number right. I mean, they beat OpTic, what is this, in Modern Warfare 2 they played, what, 6 times, 7 times, and Thieves won 5 of those times. So, yeah, definitely that season, and the year before to some extent, that Los Angeles Thieves roster that at that point were the World Champions, they had OpTic's number. And look, it has been a thing. Thieves have been absolutely owned by the Los Angeles Guerrillas in their head-to-heads over the last several years, which is pretty funny because most of the time, almost all of the time, Thieves would have had a better roster on paper, but they took the L in that head-to-head generally, and obviously Thieves, for some reason, will maybe get the better of other teams that could be better than them, such as OpTic, sometimes on paper, but of course this season, they didn't even play that many times. Only 3 matches were played this year here in 2024, and OpTic won all 3 of those games. So to some degree, Nadeshot's right, and if you look at the overall head-to-head map count, I guess, here, so the head-to-head was 12-8 here, so that's +4 for OpTic, and over these games it's +6 for Thieves. So yeah, the all-time record is, what, 11 series wins for OpTic, 11 series wins for Thieves, 44 map wins for OpTic, and 46 map wins for Los Angeles Thieves. So it's super tight. Technically, if you look at it that way, Thieves have the upper hand in the rivalry, but it's obviously not so clear as that. But still, there's no doubt in Nadeshot's mind that he's trying to form a team to beat those guys. I mean, that's how it works every offseason. When you make a roster change trying to improve your roster, you are trying to beat the world champions. That's OpTic Texas this season. Thieves are trying to get back there again. Have they done what it takes to accomplish that? You know, on paper, sure. And I think it's a great team that Thieves has built in terms of rivalries because, you know, I think Nadeshot's right. Thieves versus OpTic has always been pretty good, regardless of the rosters that they've been fielding. And this year, Thieves' roster is better than ever, so it should give them a better chance, you would say, to take down OpTic this season. In addition to the fact that Scrappy has had Drazah's number on LAN now for some time. Toronto had FaZe's number on LAN last season, and now, effectively, Scrappy's team is better than it was before on paper. So, yeah, the head-to-head matchups for Thieves are going to be critical this year, but honestly, the way they've built their roster on paper means that it should favour them quite nicely, potentially in both matchups. Does that mean they're going to be the best team in the world? Not at all. Time will tell. But intrigued to your thoughts as ever in the comment section below. Kremp is as many, I think even Parasites there as well. We've seen this over the last few years. A number of players getting out to Austin for the Grand Prix, and Kremp's going to be there for this weekend as well. So exciting stuff. I don't know if, was it at Austin that he got that picture with Charlotte Claire? It might have been. I'm not sure. Maybe that was last year. Intrigued to your thoughts as ever on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.